What is going on, y'all? It is super hot today. I mean, it is like, I think it's like almost 8 o'clock and it is still like 98 or 99 degrees here in Missouri. It is the hottest day of the year so far. We had 102 degrees today, which is absolutely freaking ridiculous. That's not even with the heat index, that's real temperature. But we're still grinding that deer prep for 2024-2025 bow season, and today we're going to get started into target shooting and more importantly, range finding. I want to talk to you guys about a rangefinder that I got sent to me by Tidewe, and I just want to give you guys a couple more tips along the way. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. So Tidewe actually sent me this rangefinder, and before we get into the review of this rangefinder, I do want to give you guys a couple reasons why you need one of these. I think a rangefinder, first and foremost, you got to know how, with a bow, distance is everything, and even with a rifle that comes into play. But if you don't know how far, you're shooting, your deer or your target, whatever, that can mean from absolutely drilling the target or the bullseye or getting that deer down or completely missing. And I don't care how good you are, everyone makes mistakes every once in a while, and a rangefinder is going to mitigate a lot of those. And another thing that I think a rangefinder is a handy dandy tool for is, let's say you're in a tree stand and you're kind of looking around and you've noticed that deer are traveling, to and from one specific spot that you can see from your tree stand, but they're not within bow range. Well, you can range where if you can see it and you can range it, you can tell yourself, hey, I just need to move, 60, 70 yards to my south or to my east or whatever direction that deer is crossing at, and that can put you within bow range. So if you can, physically see something, you can range it and you can know how far it is, and there's so many, advantages to that. Knowing where your game's at, getting within bow range is just, that's why we bow hunt. That's the whole entire thing of, just getting in bow range and, getting effectively killing a deer, or whatever you're aiming at. But I think it's really important that you guys look into getting a rangefinder. Just get one. I don't care if you buy one that's $500 or if you buy one like this. I think this retails for like $119 or whatever it is, somewhere in there. I'll leave a link down in the description so you guys can check it out. Shout out to Tidewe for sending me this one. But I've never seen one of these in person, so we're going to do a little bit of a test on it. I'm going to give you guys some more tips along the way. But I think we should just get right into it. What a rangefinder does, pretty much it's a handheld device like this. You click it and it shoots a laser. That laser is going to go back and hit your target. It's going to reflect back, and what there's an algorithm inside of this device that's going to calculate the amount of time that it takes that laser to bounce back, and that's going to give you your projected distance. Some of them are very, very accurate. I think this one is pretty accurate. I've done a little bit of pre-shooting before the video just to kind of get an idea what it's looking like. One thing that's really good about rangefinders, most of them, not all of them, and I urge you guys to buy one when you guys get one that has this feature, is get one with LOS, line of sight, or some sort of something that's going to be comparable to that, something that's going to give you angle compensation, because that's really big, if you're shooting from elevated positions. If you're going to be shooting from up on a platform, like from a 3D box, or you're up in a tree stand, more commonly for me, that's just going to make a difference, because you might be from a straight line, you only might be 10, 15 yards from that deer. But when you get up higher, a diagonal line is a lot longer than a short line. You calculate that by 1.414. That's how you get your diagonal if you just were to do a box, but there's a whole bunch of math in there that I'm not going to bore you guys with. But just definitely get one if you can that has line of sight. If you can't get one that that you can't afford, or they just can't find one that has line of sight, just get one in general, because that's just still going to get you a lot closer than if you were to try to just be guessing 20, 30, 40 yards with your eyes. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and look at this rangefinder, and then we're going to do a couple of tests, and then we're going to shoot some arrows, and we're just going to talk about range finding and everything you guys kind of need to know. Tidewe has two series of rangefinders. They have the 1000 series and the 700 series. The only difference between the 1000 series and the 700 series is the 700 only goes to 700 yards, the 1000 goes to 1000 yards. What you're going to notice on this is that this has this little hash mark here that you guys can probably see right there. That's for adjusting ocular focus, and what that is just so you can kind of see your target better, and you can also see the reticle inside of your actual rangefinder housing. That way when you're looking at your target, you can range that specific spot that you're wanting to get a range on, which is pretty cool, because some rangefinders do have that, some of them don't. I think it's really important that this one does have it, because that's going to help a lot with low light capability, and if you're going to be lacking with a little bit cheaper glass, and I don't think that this is made with cheap glass at all, but more budget friendly glass. Some of those rangefinders, they, like I said, they get $500, $600, $700, some of them, and they're made with really high dollar glass. Well, you got to think of where the trade-off is going to be when you're buying a rangefinder that's $100, $120 to compared to that much. So what that trade-off is going to help with is doing this. This also has a rechargeable battery. There's a battery port you guys can see right there. It does come with a charger inside of the box. And then other than that, there's 2 modes. You have angle compensation, and then you have just regular line of sight. It's a big S for this one. So we have 2 targets over there. We have one that is black and one that is red. They're really literally right in line with each other, just, you know, less than a foot apart. And the reason why I have 2 targets out there is I want to see how accurate this is going to be reflecting off of a black target and off of a red target. And if you're you guys that don't know, they say that black targets and white targets and, you know, just different color of targets can give different readings when you're trying to reflect that laser back to the rangefinder, and it can kind of, you know, mess up that algorithm. So we're going to go ahead, range both of our targets down there. I'll show you guys what that looks like, and we're going to shoot them, and then we're going to talk about some other ranging tips. So you guys can see those 2 targets right there, and I'll zoom in on them here in a second, but we have 2 targets right there that you guys can see. We're going to range them. One of them's black, one of them's red. They're about a foot apart, so let's go ahead and range them and see how accurate this rangefinder is. Okay, so for both of them, I got 17.8. When I did hit the black, it did fluctuate just a little bit. It went by 0.3 of a yard, so not really enough to make a difference, even at long distance. You know, if it would have been, you know, 3 yards or a full yard, it might be a little bit, but 0.3 of a yard, that's not too bad. We're gonna move these targets further back. We're gonna probably move them, I'd say we're gonna try to shoot for about 40 yards, somewhere in there, and to see how much of a difference we get when I hit the black on purpose on that black target, to see if it makes a fluctuation from compared to the red. So let's do that. So you can see I have moved our targets considerably further back from where they were. We're gonna go ahead and range them. I don't know how far they really are. I didn't really measure out 40 obviously, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say that they're probably close to, I'd say from where I'm standing, probably 35. Okay, so that's something that we really need to pay attention to. So I measured the black one. The black one, I got a consistent 33, 33.5, somewhere in there. 33 and then 33.5 back to 33. So it's, you know, within a half yard all the way out further past there. Definitely going to be accurate enough for the average hunter, and even for probably, you know, the most elite hunter out there for what you're going to need. And then I measured the red one. The red one was 32.5. So again, less than half a yard, you know, variable between 2 different color targets. For a budget rangefinder, that is something that you almost cannot beat. We're gonna go ahead and move these targets back up to 20. I do have my bow sighted in for 20. I haven't shot it in a long time, so hopefully I can hit where I'm aiming. We're gonna make sure that I have my pin set for 20, because I set my sight tape with a different rangefinder. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. So let's do that now. So we are at 20 yards. I have my targets down there. We're gonna shoot 1 arrow at each target, just to kind of see what's gonna happen with the how accurate the rangefinder is. I think it's pretty accurate. I'm pretty impressed with it. The build quality of this rangefinder, I should say before I even get into shooting, I'm very impressed. It's, you know, it's small, but it's heavy. And, you know, typically when I feel a heavier product, I like to think that that's well built and made out of good materials. The glass on it's pretty clear too. So Tidewe, I would definitely recommend this to you guys. Great work from you guys. But we're gonna go ahead and shoot 2 arrows, and then I'm gonna be done with the review part of this video, but I am gonna give you guys a secret tip, so stick around to the end of this video. I'm gonna show you guys kind of how to do some range estimation. Looks pretty freaking, oh, arrow's right here. Pull it out of the quiver. I am going to be rebuilding arrows here pretty soon, so if you guys want to watch that video, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you guys have for gear. I'd like to see what kind of rangefinders you guys have, so leave a comment down below, but let's shoot this last arrow. Go take a look at our 2 arrows, see how we did. While we're walking towards my arrows, I just want to say thank you guys for all the support that you guys have showed me in the last couple months. We have done so well on the channel. We are almost at 1,800 subscribers. I would like to be at 2,000 before we start season. I really have a high expectation that we're just gonna pick up the rest of this year. So I'm super excited about that. So if you're new to the channel and you have gotten value out of this video so far, please leave me a like and a subscribe, because we're growing very quickly and I'm super excited about it, and I have a lot of plan for you guys and for us. It's a me thing and a you thing. It's a we thing. I cannot stress that enough. So let's keep hammering it out. Let's just share the love with everyone that you guys know around you, and we're just having a good time doing this. But here's our 2 arrows, looking really good. I'm not saying I'm any Levi Morgan or professional shooter, but looking really good. One in the bullseye on the left and one in the bullseye on the right. So that's going to conclude the review part of this. If I would say, for a rangefinder, for the price point that this is at, this is going to be really hard to beat. I've had other cheap rangefinders where they do work, but everything that you're going to get from this, and the clarity and the build quality out of this rangefinder, this is going to be one of the better products that you're going to find out there for the price point. So I definitely recommend it, but I do want to give you guys one tip, so let's get into that. Like I just said, rangefinders are a huge asset to success when you're hunting out in the field. I think they can make or break a hunt and get that trophy on the ground for you if you have one. But one thing I do want to give you guys a tip for, maybe you're kind of in a lockdown situation. What I mean by that is that happens more often than not, and you hunters that have had experiences like I'm getting ready to talk about know exactly what I'm talking about. When you're hunting, when you're hunting and you have a deer locked down right on you and they're just too close to make any major movements to pick up your rangefinder, or maybe you have a turkey that can see, or just whatever, those deer are really weary and you don't want to make any of that extra movements. One thing I do think that really could help is if you get good at range estimation. So range estimation is when you don't actually have a rangefinder, and that's exactly like it sounds. It's just an estimation. You don't know exactly how that is, and if you can get really good at that, you can become a lot more self-reliant rather than relying on a rangefinder. Now, I'm not saying that a rangefinder is ever going to be replaced by range estimation. I don't think that ever will happen unless you're like someone that is just doing it over and over and over again, day after day after day, and you're a professional shooter. I don't recommend just relying on just range estimation. I think a rangefinder needs to be in your bag or in your pouch at all times. But one tip that I'm going to give you guys when you're doing range estimation, or I'll give you 2 actually now that I think about it, get really good at ranging 20 and 5 yards. And estimating, I should say. So if you can really estimate 20 yards out and you can estimate 5 yards out, that's going to make it really easy for you guys to tell kind of where you need to be as far as what you're going to be shooting at. And what I mean by that is if I'm looking at a target and the target looks, let's say I'm looking at a target that's 80 yards away. What I do is I will actually work it backwards. So I'll be like, okay, that looks like 80. I'll just say that in my head. I'm like, okay, let's do the math backwards. Okay, I got a post between me and the target that I'm looking at. I'm gonna say, okay, that post looks like it's 20 yards. Okay, I have a post between that post and the actual target that I'm aiming at is a stump, and there's a stump out there that's probably 15 yards from the post. Okay, so we're at 35, and then you can just keep adding that backwards. Just make small increments to where you think you've made it, and odds are you're just going to be pretty a lot closer than you would be if you were just to be guessing. You can't just look at something like, oh, that looks like it's 100 yards. I mean, yes you can if you're somewhat magically talented that way, good for you, but I'm certainly not. Just work it back in your mind of how you would think that distance would be, and add that up. Okay, 20 yards to this point, 25 to this point, 5 more to this point, and make those incremental changes as you need to, and that's going to make your range estimation be a lot more accurate. And another thing, when you're doing this, practice it. I mean, practice, and practice with a rangefinder. So what I like to do is, I'll be outside and I'll be like, okay, well, I have my rangefinder. I know I'm going to know exactly what it is if I just click a button, but what happens if my battery dies or I forget it or something? Well, I'm going to work it back, and I'm just going to say, hey, that tree looks like it's about 25 yards. From me to the thing behind it that I'm aiming at looks like it's about another 15, so that puts it at 40. I'm going to range the thing that I'm aiming at. If it's 35, I know, hey, I'm running a little bit rich. I'm putting a little bit too much on the end of it, and I need to kind of take a little bit off and be a little more conservative with how far I'm ranging it at in my mind, and just work from there. Another thing you got to take in consideration when you're doing range estimation is think about how big the target is that you're aiming at. Small targets can look like they're a lot further away than they actually are. If you were to take an elk and put an elk at 100 yards and put a squirrel at 100 yards, which one do you think is going to look like it's a lot closer? Obviously the elk. It can be very deceiving on the size of the target, and the deceiving on how far it actually is due to its size. So just kind of keep that in your mind. Like I said, walking it back and doing the math and doing it incrementally, adding up or adding back down, Be like, okay, 80 yards closer is about 25 yards. Just keep doing that math in your head and add up to your target, and that's going to make you a lot more accurate when you're doing your range estimation. So I just think that's one tip that you guys really need to kind of hone in on. Is just a little extra. So I just wanted to give that to you guys. If you guys got value out of today's video, coming up I'm going to have a couple videos about setting tree stands, some scouting tips, and then maybe we're even going to do a couple of scent control processes that we're going to do in order to get your clothes and everything ready for bow hunting this year. So we're underway, we're keep hammering out, we're getting closer and closer. We're about, I think, 2 months out from today, actually, now that I think about it, somewhere in there, from bow season opening up in here in Missouri. But we got a lot of work to do between now and then. So with that being said, I hope everyone is doing super well. Leave me a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.